Public Radio, 88.9 FM, the broadcast service of Morgan State University, WEAA, Baltimore. 88.9 FM reminds you that the views expressed on WEAA programs are those of participants and not necessarily those of Morgan State University, the staff, management, or underwriters of Baltimore's home for cool jazz. WEAA, 88.9 FM.
Welcome to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. Today's is a new day. We got through the election, and we're not going to even talk about it today because that's a whole show. But we have a whole show full of incredible guests with some very important information and thought-provoking in exchanges. Tonight we have with us the chairman of the National Minority Business Council, who will discuss his organization and the work they're doing, particularly with the beautiful incubator that they have to support their new businesses. They're right in the heart of downtown Manhattan, and they're doing some innovative things there. We also have with us a incredible artist, Desmond Richardson, the co-founder of Complexions Dance Company, who is an internationally renowned dancer, and he's going to talk about Complexions Dance Company and their already sold out opening night gala, and we're so happy for them. Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. is going to get us back on track with about tomorrow's Finding Your Roots. Checking your local listings on PBS will get you to that one. And, of course, we have Dr. Andrea Nelson Royas. She's an educational researcher, author, and parent who has a passionate interest in how children learn to read and how to keep them reading. And I can't wait to talk to her because I believe reading is fundamental. Dr. Benjamin Jones, the chairman of the board of National Minority Business, is a seasoned professional with well over 30 years of experience in the private sector and small and large firms and not-for-profit organizations. He's got a national reputation for knowing how to run businesses and to keep them surged with all types of infrastructure to help them do the things that they need to do to stay on track. And that's what the National Minority Business Center is doing. Mr. Jones, are you with us?
I'm with you.
That's a lot. You have your own lighting company, and you're doing all sorts of things personally and for the organization as well.
Well, importantly, it's the organization that I'd like to talk about this evening.
Great.
I do own my own company, Lightning Supply, and we are distributors of industrial supplies and environmental preferable products. And we've been in existence about 18 years now, and servicing primarily the community and the Con Edison and Group, the power companies in the New York area, and many of the corporations.
So you're a major minority supplier.
Well, I like to call myself one who has been around a while and has worked with major corporations.
Right. Well, you talk about Con Ed. I know those bills look like over there where I used to live in New York, so I know they're making money up there.
Well, Con Ed has been in the forefront of assisted minority business.
Outstanding.
So, and I happen to have been one of the firms that they've assisted when we began.
Outstanding.
So I benefit from their efforts.
Mm-hmm. And that's important, those relationships.
That's true, and I'll talk a little later about relationships, because that's how businesses are able to survive. Mm-hmm. You need relationships, and one of the key elements we talk about at the center is relationship capital. We talk also about financing and regular capital, but relationship capital, that's the capital that comes from individuals, their expertise, and sharing. And that's the basis of our center, is really sharing. Mm-hmm. And although the council's been here since 1972.
Okay. Now, let's go back to 1972, because the world was a different place in 1972.
Yes.
in terms of businesses and minority and small entrepreneurship. You know, we were doing some very interesting things with government contracts and that type of thing.
Yeah, and it was the emergence of different programs that came about as a result of the problems that minority entrepreneurs in particular face. I mean, they face the same problems that all small businesses face, in addition to a myriad of different problems just because they happen to be minority.
Right.
Their access to capital was limited. Their access to markets were limited. Their access to training was limited. So the council came into being in order to address those particular issues. And as a result of the efforts of the council, we were able to help hundreds of minority businesses to gain a foothold in the marketplace, okay, trying to level the playing field, if you will, so that they'd have a greater opportunity. And with the help of a few corporations at that time, who I would call pioneers in assisting minority businesses, we were able to get them to enter the marketplace and succeed. It was very difficult at that time, but you had a few banks who worked with us, and you had a few major corporations who worked with us, some of which Rockefeller, Rodman, the son of John Rockefeller, Rodman Rockefeller, he opened the doors to his corporation, one of the first, to open the doors to minority businesses. And of course, from that day, you had the major corporations other than Rockefeller's organization, such as General Motors and Ford and Chrysler, who started out and really created businesses. Because that's where it really comes from.
That's exactly right. And you have to say those words because they did create those businesses.
No, literally.
I know. Now here's a question for you though. Now I want to move to 2014 because I want to your perspective, because you have that 30,000 foot view, right? How, right?
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for a minute. So I'm not talking to somebody who just came down in yesterday's rain. Tell me how different it is today. Have we made these major strides, or where are we still along the same place? Where are we now?
We have made major strides. We still have problems. Don't get me wrong. The initial ones that I had mentioned, some still exist, and it's still more difficult for smaller minority businesses to survive. But they have survived.
All right.
I'll give you an example. In 1972, another organization that I was with, the National Supply Development Council.
Oh, is that Harriet?
Harriet's organization. I happen to have preceded Harriet at that organization.
Okay. Well, I know it well.
So I've worked for years with them, and from their inception, because they were created around the same time, 1972. And in those years, corporate America purchased $86 million from minority businesses nationwide in that first year.
That's a serious number, though.
Today, you have individual corporations that are purchasing over $2 billion a year with minority and women-owned businesses. So
individual companies.
A lot of different dollars that have moved into that. And you have firms that have been created. Worldwide Technologies is one in particular.
Oh, David Stewart.
David Stewart.
That's a bad brother. That's a bad brother.
His sales are over $5 billion.
Yes. So out in St. Louis.
That's a perfect success story. Some others, you might know Dave Bing from Big Steel.
Yes.
That was created through the help of General Motors.
I don't know.
Bing has been most recently the mayor of Detroit. But they have succeeded. There was many firms that have participated in the program and have succeeded over the years from the efforts of some pioneers like GM and others. And so the minority business community has profited, yes, it really has. And there are where we had a few businesses that operating in the service sector for the most part. Because I remember when I was trying to get contracts for minority businesses, the companies that I had in our portfolio at that time were service companies. We can do janitorial services, that kind of thing. As a matter of fact, the first firm that I got a contract for was framing pictures in Rockefeller's company. Okay, and the purchasing director at the time had asked me, what could these people in quotes do for me, if you will. But since that time, though, we have minority firms that have grown in all sectors, from manufacturing to service to IT to the professional to in the lawyers who are now being able to be counsel to major corporations wherein before they could not.
Financing.
So the full spectrum, finance. You have minority CPA firms that now have joint ventures and partners with major other CPA firms. So it's a different picture.
It's a different world.
It is a much more successful picture, but there's still problems.
But here's something. I don't mean to interrupt you, and we don't have much time, but I want to make sure that we cover a couple of these things that I think were really important. Looking at your program and the services that you offer, what I loved was this entrepreneurial boot camp. So you've got an executive management program and this entrepreneurial boot camp that I think are just unbelievable. And then a green business initiative is fabulous.
Well, the key to the boot camp is really can be put in a few words. The boot camp really is to transfer employees from that kind of thinking to become an employer. What it means to be able to take over and run a business, meaning everything depends on you. Instead of, as an employee, you work for someone else and you listen to them. So what we teach you in the boot camp are all of the things that you need to do to run a business. We also have another educational program called the Executive Management Program, which covers all aspects of business. It's a 26-module program that we do annually, and it covers every area, of business. You talk about even immigration and contract law, leadership skills, wealth building, networking, franchising, public relations, debt financing, venture capital, digital marketing. The marketing that we talk about today, we call the thumb generation. When you talk about Facebook and Twitter and those kinds of things, we have specialized classes in that. Strategic planning, talent acquisition, and business development, just to name some. They come in the educational program. But the key, most innovative effort that we have initiated is the Global Entrepreneurship Center. And that center, which I talked about earlier, was built around sharing and relationship capital. That is where we bring about a whole new aspect of nurturing special businesses.
I love it.
And the areas that we've chosen are media and entertainment, clean and green energy, information technology, fashion, design, and the arts, development and financing. And as a matter of fact, one of the organizations that in our center that you will be talking to later is Complexion. And they are one of the members of our center.
I love it.
But these, it brings together businesses in a network, that helps them to grow
and develop.
The experience of other, and there's where the sharing and relationship capital comes in.
And that's critical.
Because you have, within the center itself, you have other businesses who provide that relationship capital. So they provide their experience. So if you need information on mergers and acquisitions, we have people here who do that. We have people who can provide legal advice. You have people who provide wealth and management training. You have people who provide PR and media expertise.
And they're all in that facility as well.
They're all in this one facility. And each of the members here can participate. And you have many in the fashion area, and they can all participate in the expertise of each other. And of course, the programs that we run, and I know you don't have much time, but we do some all overseas.
Right.
That the Global Center really is global. We have done, of course, trade missions to Europe and Africa and Asia and the Caribbean. But right now we have relationship capital, relationship centers, as we call them, in Shanghai and in Paris and in Johannesburg, South Africa. And through those centers, for instance, we have created new markets for businesses here, such as Veramore Cosmetics, as a matter of fact, has now been able to move their products in Shanghai, China. Okay? And the marketing has been improving. So it's a new market for her, and it came through the center. So that is one of the businesses that has benefited from our international effort. We also have a major effort going on under what is called Visions in Africa, which is the company in Ethiopia.
Oh.
And we're moving their products right here in New York. And they cover the area of all types of crafts, pottery, and fashion. All right. So we are global in that sense, and we do provide a platform and an environment in which businesses can really grow. I mean, it gives them all of the tools that they have, and the experience of others through that shared relationship is key. And that's how they're able to survive.
Well, and you really do need that because, I mean, you need the mentoring, you need the support system, that leadership to help people make that leap because it's not easy.
No. And those others, and it keeps you from making the same mistakes that others have made.
Right.
So you don't have to go through that, okay? So you can use your talents and you can use your capital, all right, to go steadily without the blips that you still have blips. I mean, don't let me say it's purely clean, but it minimizes that, and it gives you advantages that other businesses don't have as you're going to grow.
Well, I think what is really interesting is part of our challenge is we don't always have that access. I'm going to get to the access to capital, too, because that's a really important piece. And being creative, are you all doing any of that, the new crowdfunding?
Yes.
Okay.
We have programs, and ourselves, we look at those as new avenues. Crowdfunding happens to be one that we look at for our individuals and for ourselves, as a matter of fact. We also looking at some different kind of international funding using one of the programs that exists called EB5, which brings international capital to America, to invest in businesses. And they've used it for real estate for the most part, but we are going to be using it for developing developments and businesses here. So, yes, the capital side is still extremely important. And we have organizations that we're working with in order to develop pools. And through those programs I mentioned, EB5 and others, we are going to be actually developing a fund that we could then utilize to provide equity and debt capital to businesses.
Oh.
So that's the next stage probably will come into being in 2015 that we're working on right now.
That's amazing. And there aren't a lot of organizations that are even poised to do that.
No, that's true. NMBC, though, is one of the other organizations. They do provide funding, too. They have what is called the Business Consortium Fund, where they're able to provide equity capital that has been very, very successful. That was created back in 84. And it started out with $15 million, and it's grown tremendously over that time. So, there are some good examples out there of assistance that go on. Our organization, our base is minority business. And, for instance, NMBC's base is corporate America. But we both assist minority businesses in different ways, okay? Mm-hmm. But it's meaningful. We think we've done quite a job over the years. And with the center, we think that we will really make a mark on developing businesses in the coming years.
Well, you're already on the mark. You guys are not playing.
Well, it's been the center was started almost a year ago, and let me say the managing director of the center is Fritz McClimate.
Okay.
And he happens to have been one of the founders of NMBC in 1972. And I met Fritz at the same time, personally, and I happened to meet the president of, who's the current president, John Robertson.
Okay.
Who was the president, first president, and still is president and CEO.
Okay.
And I have been working with the organization since its inception and continually up until this time.
All right. Listen,
so
you've had a great run. Thank you, Ben Jones, chairman of the board for the National Minority Business Council up in Manhattan. You guys are doing an incredible job. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Marsha.
All right. We'll take care. We'll catch up with you soon. We have on the other line Desmond Richardson, who is the co-founder and artistic director for Complexions Contemporary Ballet. And I must say that I've known Desmond for a while when he was coming to Baltimore as a premier dancer for the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. He has been an incredible member for the American Ballet Theater. He has won the 60th Capizio Dance Award in 2011, Tony Award nominee, Dance Magazine Award, and numerous awards. Desmond Richardson, hello.
Hello, Marsha. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm wonderful. How you doing?
I'm so good. It's so good to hear your voice. I mean, we haven't seen or spoken to each other in a long while.
Far too long. Yeah. But, I got all pumped up and excited about your gala coming up, and you guys sold out already.
Yeah, but that's just for the gala. But, we still have some tickets available for the season.
For the season.
Come on down. Yes.
But you're doing some really neat things. And this is your, can you even believe it's the 20th year anniversary?
It is the 20th anniversary. Can you believe it? So you remember when?
I do. You have just soared. That's all.
Thank you.
Just both of you, you and Dwight. Dwight Roden, your co-founder, and just doing an incredible job. What made you decide that you were going to even start the company? You were already rocking and rolling, and for both of you, because Dwight was with the company with Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater as well. To make that leap, everybody wants to be with Alvin Ailey.
That's right. Well, you know what? It was actually through the encouragement of Mr. Ailey, who had seen Dwight's work on occasion, and just said, you know what, you need to probably put all of this work together, because Dwight at that time was choreographing on not only the members of Alvin Ailey, but other members around in various companies around the city, in New York City Ballet and our friends and Dance Theater Harlem and all of this stuff. So he was seeing all of this, and he said, you know what, do a concert. You put it all together and see, as a mashup.
Wow.
Said. So do that. And thus, we did that in 1994. It was sold out 3 nights, 866 seats each night. And there we go. Complexions was bred 1994, and here we are.
Now, see, I didn't know that story. So you said, okay, so we've got this. People are here. I know you've danced with everybody on everything and on theater. I mean, seriously. I remember the last time I saw you was like in Detroit. You were hanging out with Prince, dancing or something.
Right.
So, but how did you formulate the company? I mean, it's now you're international. You're going all over. You're doing new works. This is amazing.
Well, here's the thing. We formulated the company really after that concert. Dwight and I saw that there was something that was really viable and palpable to not only us, but the audience members. There was something that was just coming off the stage, and we said, this is something that's really special. We hadn't had a name yet. It was just a concept in dance. And then one of the dancers' father turned to us and said, this room is just full of complexities and just unity of people. And we both looked at each other and said, complexion. And that's how the name came about. And from then on, we just said, we really want to concentrate on either training dancers, because at the time when we first started the company, we were working with masterful artists who just wanted to say other things on their journey. Okay. But through that, we said, there is something here where we need to start training dancers in this sort of contemporary ballet idiom, if you will, because it was nowhere to be found, really. Right. The crossing of the genres wasn't so much, well, at least in New York, it was not. So we thought, listen, I for myself, being starting in street dance, I started as a hip-hop dancer. Not
I can't even believe that. I can't even believe it, looking at you now, it's just, but incorporating it still.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's how I worked with Michael Jackson and of course, Prince and Madonna. These are how I got along in those roads, in those commercial roads, because they know me as that type of dancer. And so seeing and moving from that and just, keeping everything structured, meaning training in pure form, but when it's time to hit it in each style, I'm ready to go. And thus we were ready to train people like that. As we see that throughout the generations, the technical prowess of these dancers nowadays are phenomenal, and they're coming with all of that.
Really?
They can sing, dance, tap,
well-rounded
gymnastic. Oh God, they got everything. But here's the thing: they need that other stuff that we were trained in every day, which is that passion that is within you. That is, you have to be professional. How you show up. Hey, excellence.
Right.
Your persistence. The precision, the details, the transitions. All of those things need to be articulated and spoke about every day ad nauseum, so that actually they learn that part, because they're coming with technical prowess, but sometimes the other part needs to be well-rounded, and that's something that I feel Dwight and I have concentrated on throughout these years. Okay. And we're just really excited that we have trained a lot of dancers, or let's say helped them along their way, if you will. I'm just honored to have been a part of people's lives and see how they've gone on. It's just been pretty amazing, and it continues to be.
But I think that you have found a niche, because it is pulling all of that together, and Alvin Ailey started it, and it has gone through Catherine Dunham, and I mean the whole transitions have been there, and it's all so rounded. And I think about the tap dancers and that whole thing, but there's so much more now, and you're right, our bodies are moving differently. We're into the movement that's different, but we're finding, I just had a conversation with somebody about the children being ready. Being ready, being prepared, showing up on time, and understanding what on time, and what understanding that professionalism, and that is because people are bringing their A game in everywhere. That's what's going to separate you from the rest of the wheat. That's right. If you don't have that whole well-rounded aspect and understand what that professionalism means in the bigger context of the world, then you're going to be out. Listen, can you stick with us for a few minutes?
I sure can.
Okay. You're listening to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. Please come back. We're talking to Desmond Richardson. Welcome back to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. We are here with the co-founder and artistic director of Complexions Dance Company, Desmond Richardson. And they are coming up on a big 20 years, I can't even believe, celebration. Lord have mercy. Time sure does fly.
Sure, it does.
So now what do you all see? 20 years. What's the next 20 looking like, Desmond?
Well, you know what we'd like? We want to create our training ground. It's time for the Complexions Dance Academy, for sure. We just launched our instructional DVD, which is the official technique of Complexions at www.complexionsTechnique.com. For those interested, can go to that website and find out that information. It's a contemporary ballet instructional video for students who want to train in this particular style and get the information. So Dwight and I thought this is, the right time to do it. As we are continuing training younger dancers, we feel like this is something that's part of the course. For that, we're also getting our methodology together, or our pedagogy, if you will, of the syllabus of Complexions Technique, because it is that. And it's part of just the legacy, really, of Complexions, because we're here to stay. We feel like we want to really help train the next generation of phenomenal dancers who are interested in spreading their gifts.
So similar to if we were to put it into the context for those of us who are not in the dance field, but looking at that, this is your legacy, so that we walk around the world and say this is a Complexions technique, like we would an Alvin Ailey or a Dunham or whomever.
That is correct.
I love it.
That is correct.
I love it. That's powerful. Correct. Oh, we did get there. We had to move, but we had to get there. And I think that's really important, because when you package that, the pedagogy, the whole 9 yards, you package that and you move that around the world, people will be able to see that in combination, because that technique, I'm sure, has some delicacies and some firepower that most people have never seen.
That is correct. And, it's just getting them information, and those who want to be accredited in it later on, then they will have an opportunity to do so. And then they can actually teach it. And, we want it to morph, because we want it to, as we are putting it out there in the world, people are going to add their, feel to it. Obviously, there's a particular structure, but there's something that they can add to it as well, because we feel like dance is, as we said before, we didn't start it. We learned from the best, the Alvin Ailey's, the George Balanchines, the Forsyth, the Alonzo Kings, those people who have come before us, and we're climbing on the shoulders of them, and they're pushing us forward and encouraging us. I have to say really quickly a big shout out to the Minority Business Council, National Business Council, because we have offices in New York.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
We surely do.
Yes, you do.
So I heard that you had the gentleman before you on, and I was like, oh, right, that's great, because they are a phenomenal organization, and they have just embraced us and really put their arms around us and pushed us forward as well.
But you know what? He and I were talking a few moments ago, Desmond. I think this is really important, because when you talk about keys to success, and you talk about how do you grow your business, you have to grow your business, but you have to have people to help you along the way. And
absolutely, support.
Exactly. And sometimes we think that we can do it all. But having a business is bigger than just this one little moment in time. You've got to be able to have it so it's sustainable. Now, what will we see, because this is your season, and you've got 3 premieres, special guest appearances. So do you want to talk about the season?
Sure. Well, let's start for the latter. From the guest appearances, we have Misty Copeland that's coming through to dance with us. She's doing Dwight's Ave Maria. That was first danced by Christina Johnson and Donna Williams from Dance Theater Harlem, who are officially, original Complexions members. We have Dennis and Anastasia Matvinyenko, who are dancing Dwight's work from The Great Gatsby.
Wow.
That's the work that he's just actually premiering tonight in Moscow.
Oh, I know, it's fabulous.
It's called the Gatsby Ballet. You can go to gatsbyballet.com to get the information of that, and it will be coming to the States soon in the spring. So the world will have an opportunity to see that. We're also doing a collaboration with Terrence Blanchard, friendly trumpet player, a dear friend of ours, and the piece is called Headspace. And it's an amalgam of his work, and he and Dwight just came together and just made this beautiful, beautiful work called Headspace. And we have some other things on there. We have Hissy Fits, which is to Bach. And we also have Inner Visions, which is to Stevie Wonder's music. Wow. So that there's an arc. Complexions, you get everything.
Yeah. I like that. I like that term. There's an arc. Right.
For sure.
I love that.
You're not going to be bored.
Well, never. Well, just, we just sit there spellbound, lips hanging all open, looking at all these bodies do this incredible work. That's just...
And I will be dancing that evening, too. I will be dancing a work called What Come Thereafter, played live by Eric Lewis, which he goes by Elu. It's an original composition.
Now, what night is that?
That is on the 20th, November 20th, which is our gala night. Yes. And so we're just super excited with the other guest artists. Obviously, we have Felicia Rashad, who's going to be our hostess of the evening. We have Bahia Saeed, original, who's from Baltimore.
Yes.
Who went to the
Baltimore School for the Arts. Yes.
That's right.
Well, Linda Denise Fisher-Harrell saw the newsletter that had your little face in it, and she called it, sent a text message talking about, all right.
So we have her coming because she's an original member of Complexions.
Yes.
Before she went to Ailey, and we have Clifford Williams from Complexions, who's a artist in residence now, and we just have a plethora of goodness that's going on that stage that night, and of course the amazing dancers in Complexions. I can't not forget them because they are just are just wonderkin, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, how do we get in touch and just stay and make sure that we know your schedule and the rest of the program for the rest of the week?
Absolutely. You can go to www.complexionsdance.org, which is our official website, and you can find all of that information not only on there, you can also go to Facebook/complexionsballet.com and get that information. And we'll have seasonal information, what is being danced, and ticket information as well.
All right. Desmond Richardson, Complexions Dance. Thank you so much. It was a joy.
Thank you so much. It's so good to talk to you, Marsha. Take care.
All right. We'll see you soon. You're listening to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. Up next, Dr. Henry Louis Gates with an update on finding your roots. Welcome to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. We are here with our regular scheduled segment with Dr. Henry Louis Gates, the executive producer, writer, and presenter of Finding Your Roots. And I'll tell you, he is the Alphonse Fletcher University professor and director of the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard University, Emmy award-winning filmmaker, literary scholar, journalist, cultural critic, and institution builder. And he's authored 17 books and created 14 documentary films, including Finding Your Roots, Season 2, now airing on PBS. And he's here to talk about tomorrow's show. But before we get into tomorrow's show, I want to go back a couple of shows when you did the roots or finding the history of Valerie Jarrett.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
one of my favorite shows. I love Valerie, and of course she's the president's best friend.
Yes.
And she has a rich family tree. And don't tell me you're related to Valerie Jarrett.
You're going to fall out, and my phone just went off, so I have to find it. Anyway, while I'm looking at this, I said Roshan, because I think that was on her mother or father's side of the family.
Yes. Yes, Roshan, that's right.
And I said, well, there can't be but one Roshan. So, from Louisiana. So, I get my little trusty phone out and text message my friend. And I said, so I'm having this show and I'm watching this. And all of a sudden, I see your name. Are you all related? And
What,
he and this was Admiral Roshan. Stephen Roshan he used to be the head usher in the White House.
Huh.
Retired Rear Admiral. And he has found out that he and Valerie Jarrett were related.
Oh, amazing.
And
that is great.
As it turned out, he went through all this work finding out all this particular information, and lo and behold, they are cousins. So he gets on Air Force One with the president and Valerie Jarrett and says, and you're my cousin. And she said, I thought so. Is that amazing?
That is amazing. He's an Air Force admiral?
He's a retired Rear Admiral out of the United States Navy. And
that is amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing.
It's such a small world. Well, Valerie had one of the most amazing family trees. I mean, a line of free Negroes or free people of color, but both names were used, that went back to 1770. A Frenchman who fathered the children of a black woman named Marianne, 6 children, and then freed her and the kids, and then a year later married a French woman.
And his great-grandfather on his mother's side, who he knew before he died, was a famed Buffalo soldier fighting in the Spanish-American War in Cuba in 1898.
Wow, and another side, on the Roshan line, and a more distant ancestor fought in the American Revolution. In the War of 1812. Fought in the War of 1812.
And then in 1643, in northern France, they were part of the family that came across the Atlantic to colonize Canada. They migrated to New Orleans, and there you have it.
That's what I told.
Is that hilarious? Is that hilarious?
Yes,
And
it's the same family. And
more importantly, he coordinated the beer summit at the White House.
Oh, no. Now you got my attention.
He coordinated that. And, we've never talked about that. But he said, so this is a stream of text messages going back and forth.
Oh, my God. That is amazing. What is his name?
Admiral Stephen Roshan.
Well, I am going to email Valerie and get his contact information.
I can give it to you. I will give it to you.
Here's mine. Did I give you my email?
Well, we'll get it offline.
That is incredible. That's incredible.
And he's one of my dear friends. I just love him. And he introduced
me. Small world, man.
He introduced me to Will, who wrote the book, The Butler. And Steve was the White House's consultant on The Butler.
Wow, that's amazing. That is astonishing. Well, you have floored me.
So floor me with tomorrow. What are we doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow we do Sally Field, the Flying Nun.
I love it.
We do Sting, and we do the famous Indian holistic practitioner of Ayurveda, and that is Deepak Chopra, the best-selling author. And we only have time for me to tell you about one, so I'm going to pick Sally Field. Sally Field grew up in California, and we found that her ancestors came from Canada to the United States. So you figured logically that they migrated from England to Canada, right? But she didn't even know that this line existed. So this is through Sally's great-grandfather. His name was John Quincy Field. Well, here, Marsha, is how they got to Canada. Sally's fifth-grade grandparents, Ralph and Ann Morden, were living in Pennsylvania. And when the Revolutionary War broke out, instead of siding with the Patriots and fighting for the Continental Army, Ralph Morden, Sally's fifth-grade grandfather, sided with the King of England, King George III, and became a Tory or a Loyalist. And the Patriots caught him And in 1780, they tried him, found him guilty of treason, and hanged him by the neck till he was dead.
No.
Yes, and then the widow, Anne, who had 8 children, then fled to Canada, and the British gave anyone who had been loyal to them in the American Revolution 200 acres of land. And so she farmed 200 acres of land, and then
by herself with those kids.
Isn't that amazing? With all those kids, and they then migrated to the United States, and Sally Field had no idea that she had any Canadian relatives or anybody who was connected to the Revolution. But then, get this, it gets even better. On another line, her 10th great-grandfather on her father's line was named William Bradford, and William Bradford and another 101 passengers boarded the ship on September 6, 1620, in Plymouth, England, and set sail for the New World. They were looking for the colony of Virginia, but they ran into terrible storms. They were blown off course. They finally arrived 66 days later on the shores of present-day Massachusetts, and when they landed, they named the place they landed, of course, Plymouth Rock. And the name of the ship was the Mayflower. Sally Field is actually a descendant of one of the original passengers on the Mayflower. And not only that, he went on to be the governor of Massachusetts for 36 years, and that's her 10th great-grandfather. And Marsha, she had no clue that this was her family.
That is so mind-boggling.
Now, how are you going to be descended from the Mayflower and not know it and not have your family talk about how wonderful your ancestry is? So it goes back to the point we discuss every week here, which is that when I started this series, I thought only African Americans had what I call genealogical amnesia.
Right.
But it's true of everybody's got genealogical amnesia. Everybody's got genealogical amnesia. And now we have restored Sally Field, her whole distinguished lineage. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
And her DNA reveals that she has some segments of Native American ancestry, meaning that it wasn't Turkey. Turkey wasn't the only thing that her ancestors were sharing with the Indians.
Right. There was some dark meat in there somewhere.
There's some dark meat in there somewhere,
Lord have mercy. Right.
So that's a fascinating, isn't it?
That's a fascinating story. And see, I would expect, that's that whole, you get a sense that there's this carriage about her, this regalness that you really can't put your finger on. And you thought maybe that was because she was a star, had been a star a long time ago. But, sometimes I think some of those things are passed down to
no question.
How you carry that carriage.
My mom used to say to my brother and me, we come from people.
Exactly. That's exactly
right. We come from people.
That's exactly right.
I didn't know what she talked about. I go, yeah, what kind of people? But you know what she meant.
That's
right.
right.
And it turns out we descend from 3 lines of 3 people of color, and my 4th great-grandfather fought in the American Revolution, a black man. And that's what she was talking about. So, and it's that kind of knowledge about your ancestors is empowering.
It's empowering and helps you set sail on the right path for your own future.
You got it. Well, thank you, my darling.
Thank you.
I look forward to talking to you about next week's episode.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. And I look forward to seeing the show tomorrow. And I'm going to make certain that you get Admiral Roshan's information.
Oh, yeah.
You're listening to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews, WEAA 88.9 FM, the voice of the community. Welcome back to Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews. We are here with Andrea Nelson Royce, and she is the author of 2 books. And I'll tell you, we've been talking about that for a minute. Transforming Early Learners into Superb Readers and Success in School and Career. Common Core Standards in Language Arts K through 5. Andrea, thank you for your patience.
And thank you for having me on your show tonight.
Oh, let me tell you something. These books are amazing. Before we go any further, please put out how people can purchase your book.
My books can be purchased through Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and from my publisher's website at rowan.com.
Okay. I want to start with the transforming early learners into superb readers. These books are just amazing. What made you sit down and do them?
Well, as an education advocate, I want to ensure that all concerned individuals in a child's life make a concerted effort to ensure that children experience a literary environment and providing them with the information needed to achieve success.
Mm-hmm. And so as we look at, I'm going to jump kind of in there. You have a section called Uncovering Ways to Teach Children to Read Successfully. And it gets into the No Child Left Behind. But let's talk about why reading is so critical.
Well, why reading is so critical is that it develops the mind. Understanding the written word is one way for the mind to grow in its ability. We discover new things, and it develops our imagination and our creativity.
Now, you have down here the findings concluded, the panel reviewed like 100,000 students throughout the United States, and it kind of fell on the researching about uncovering how to teach children to read successfully. And the National Reading Panel, you have down here 5 components of effective reading instruction.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you... When you look at those, is they came up with it, but would you say that these are what we need, or do we need to add to them?
Well, right now, these are the basics. These are the fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
As with any child, they learn differently, and teachers can use these and other techniques that they might discover that might help a particular child. These are just the basic 5 that the reading panel has stated that are effective reading instructions for children.
Mm-hmm. So that's the phonemic awareness is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate the individual sounds in spoken words. Phonics is the relationship between the letters of the written language and the sounds of spoken language. And vocabulary development refers to the words children must know to read effectively. Reading fluency, the ability to read text accurately and quickly with expression, and reading comprehension is the competence to understand and gain meaning from what has been read. And I'm a huge reader, and my daughter and my grandson are amazing. But here's a question for you. What happened? We were reading phonetically. We were reading. There wasn't anybody that came out of the 30s, 40s, 50s. Once we had the ability to go to school and to read. Why are we missing so much now that we have to go through and give ourselves a step-by-step 200-page book to get kids to read? What happened?
With the Common Core, I'll just go to the Common Core.
Now, that's the other book, Success in
Yes.
School and Career, Common Core Standards in Language Arts K through 5.
The Common Core is stressing a lot of informational reading. And a lot of children currently, before the new system, read a lot of stories. Informational reading, as we progress to college, we realize that we have to do more research, and we have to do get more in-depth information. So the Common Core has stressed that through K through 5 that children will be doing more informational reading. So children we have to refocus what we're teaching children currently and get them more on an informational basis as opposed to literary reading for fun.
Mm-hmm. So when we look at that, I mean, a lot of kids they're saying that this Common Core is more memorization.
No, the Common Core we're teaching to a standard.
Mm-hmm.
It's not memorization. The teachers can implement their own standards that they have used before, but this is a standard that all public schools or even charter schools who are implementing the Common Core have to gear towards. So it's not rote memorization. It's teaching new standards and incorporating your old standards to make it more robust and more rigorous.
Mm-hmm. What made you write this book on the Common Core standards?
The Common Core came across from my editorial assistant. After I wrote my first book, Transforming Early Learners into Superb Readers, she saw the need for the Common Core book, and she told me that they would be willing to give me a contract to write that book. And it also came about from one of my endorsers, Dr. Jamil Jordan from Chicago State University, who was doing research at that time and also saw the need for Common Core. And she placed that endorsement on my first book, that my first book was an introductory to the Common Core, which is so much more robust.
Okay. So now, this book is really a great book for folks who are going into the educational field, number one. And my daughter homeschools my grandson. And she loves it because it has indicators that she needs as a homeschooler to make sure, and she saw that Peyton was on track. So I think that there's an audience really for this beyond just the school system, for parents to make sure that they are looking at this and understanding all that's involved.
Exactly. My Transforming Early Learners into Superb Readers is a starting point for educators, the parents, caregivers, and even anyone, like you said, like your daughter who is homeschooling their child. It's, in fact, an easy read. It's on the same readability as a newspaper and most trade magazines, so parents can easily understand and apply the information.
So are there... or do you foresee a workbook or workshops associated with your books?
Well, it's something in the future. I would love to present more workshops and even a workbook. That might be a thought.
Yeah. Really? I mean, think about that, because there's a whole, if you were to take this, and we're now looking, because I think parents need to be more engaged and more involved in the process of how their children are developing and growing and understanding what that read looks like and some of the reading material that's available. And there are a lot of people who are homeschooling today, which is very interesting. They've grown, universally.
Yes, that is true. My hope is that this book provides educators, parents, and caregivers with information to help their children. My forthcoming book, which is Why Tutoring, is another book that tutoring is a valuable source also. And for homeschoolers, the parents that might not know all that it is to give their children can seek outside help from an outside tutor.
Right.
So that's another book that will be out next year that ties in of how we can get extra help outside of school for children implementing tutoring, which is a viable strategy. And
it's a very critical strategy. You might even want to think about pulling together some tutors and do some consulting around the country. Well, that's I'm gonna help you with this business model. We'll talk about that when we get through. Andrea, we gotta go, but I don't know where you are, but if you're ever in Baltimore, come and let's have a workshop down here. We really would love to talk to you face to face. Let some of the people in Baltimore see you.
Thank you very much. I thank you for that offer.
All right. How do we get in touch with your books again?
You can get in touch with me through my website, www.andreanelsonroyce.com, or you can purchase my book directly from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, or Roman.com.
All right. We're going to be in touch. And then, of course, you can always get in touch with Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews. Thank you so much. You're listening to Keep It Moving with your host, Marsha Jews. A huge thank you to our listeners and our guests, entertainment producer Meredith Leon McCormick, Andre Melton, our engineer Mike Middleton, director of operations. We hope you enjoyed our show and ask that you support Keep It Moving with Marsha Jews and become a member of WEAA. To learn more about our shows, all you got to do is send us an email, keepitmovingmarshajews@gmail. Get on our mailing list, follow us on Twitter, and until next week, keep it moving.